Welcome back to the channel. My name is Lisa Elvin-Staltarian. I'm a genealogist and a passionate traveler. Over the past few years or so, I've been featuring each Feijoa king's daughter and getting to know their stories a little bit better. There are over 700 of them. Today we're doing episode 227. Can't believe we've done this many, but we've got a long way to go. So before we begin, let me show you ways that you can help support the channel. The first three keep you in the know. Subscribe, like, and notify. All of this helps my logarithms and all that good stuff. The next three are ways to help the channel grow. We have Coffee and Patreon, which are separate channels where you can go and either give a monthly donation, as in Patreon, and or Coffee, which is a one-time. And then you can also go on my website, Have Roots Will Travel, and I have a PayPal button there as well, so you can donate that way if that's your choice. So without further ado, let's get started and explore episode 227. Her name, Jeanne Caille, and she is episode 227. She was not a viewer request, but when I saw that it was the boy next door and the boy next door's wife, I had to do this one. So they are related through this Jeanne Caille. So let's explore Jeanne Caille, and please let me know if you are related to her as well. So Jeanne was born in 1654 in Paris, France. Her parents were Claude Caille and Anne Melly. The Catholic Church that she was baptized in was Saint Nicolas des Champs, which was built in the 15th century in a very Gothic style. It's located on the Rue Saint-Martin in the 3rd arrondissement. The current church was built sometime between 1420 and 1480 and enlarged in the 16th and early 17th. And but the actual parish, if you will, dates from the 12th century. And she was born in the area known as the 3rd arrondissement, which is found on the right bank of the River Seine. It's referred to as a temple or temple. This sector dates back to the Middle Ages and is the second smallest of Paris's sections or arrondissements. Among notable facts about this sector is that it's here where you can find the oldest surviving private house in Paris, built in 1407. Imagine that you're standing in front of a house that would have stood when your ancestor would have been alive. I just think that's a really amazing kind of like connection to history. So she would embark on this adventure of a lifetime. In 1671, she would arrive July 30th, 1671, on the Prince Maurice. We do not know if her parents were alive or if it was just, her adventurous spirit, or this was an opportunity for her. We do not know. So the groom she selected, Jacques Pépin, was born in 1646 in Trois-Rivières. So he was already there. His parents were kind of really famous in terms of being true pioneers. His father, Guillaume Pépin de Franche-Montagne, and Jeanne Méchain, both of whom were, in Quebec in the earliest of times. They were part of the Trois-Rivières. As you know, Trois-Rivières was only the second settlement of New France. You can see on the picture on the bottom there how the river has three mouths, and the Trois-Rivières. So that is, Trois-Rivières is French for three rivers. And it's a very strategic place because of its location between Quebec City, down the river of St. Lawrence, and some of you may be very surprised to learn that you could qualify for admission to the Daughters or Sons of the American Revolution further down in the history of Trois-Rivières in the 1776 and 70 battles of the American Revolution. So have a look and see if your people were on the American side, if you happen to have ancestors at that time. So they were married November 17th, 1671 at Trois-Rivières. First get their start at Nicolet, and this was a beautiful part of the Quebec province. The residents of the town actually pronounce the final T, so they will say Nicolet. However, people outside of the region do not. We say Nicolet. So it's one of those little things. The town took its name from Jean Nicolet, a French explorer and clerk of the Company of 100 Associates, who explored the Great Lakes region to Wisconsin. Despite never having lived there, he explored the area during the 7 years he lived at Trois-Rivières. And so eventually, the colonial settlement of Nicolas began in the late 17th century with Pierre Monet de Moret, who constructed a manor on which is now known the Moret Island. Rights to the territory were given by Jean Talon, passing through several hands in the next 30 years. And so, Nicolas is one of those places where it didn't have a strong seigneur, and it wasn't really as, part of the community as much as possible. Now, that being said, the Acadian settlers who came here in 1756, they actually were part of the Nicolet and were part of what was going on. So that is something that if you have ancestors in this area, you may want to explore if they have the Acadian roots or the connections and all that. Also, Nicolet has a history of just all kinds of really incredible things happening, fires, burning the churches down, and there was a sinkhole that was established, or not established, but happened, in 1955, and just like tragedy of things happening. So it has, even when I was living there, it was like one of those places where you kind of went like, wow, these are really strong people that live there. Suffice it to say, they did not stay in this area. They did eventually settle down in a more common place. Let's have a look where they ended up. So they would eventually end up in Champlain, which was a much more, robust and well-established place. It was definitely here that, was established around 1665, about 1666. We saw some of the first families come here you can see on that plaque, it is the first church was established in 1666. And then the Notre-Dame de la Visitation, that church there was established in 1684, or the parish, I should say, not that church. And this is a picture I actually took this summer when I was doing the village, when I was doing all the Chemin du Roi, and Champlain is part of that Chemin du Roi, and it says fondé en 1664. So 1664 is when it was founded. So it was a wonderful place to go. Really, I just enjoyed my time in Champlain very much. Very, very sweet town. Marianne would live a long life but did not marry. Jean would marry Jacqueline Billy and had 6 children, all of whom made it. Marguerite would marry Jean-Baptiste Leclerc and had 4 children, all of whom made it. Pierre would die at 4 years of age. Marie-Antoinette would marry Jean-Baptiste Joubert and had 1 child, who survived. Jean-Baptiste's mother was Marie-Madeleine Duval, a fille du roi who we have not yet profiled. Jacques married Elisabeth Dufresne, had 8 children with her, all of whom made it. He then married Louise Foran and had 3 children, all of whom made it. Joseph married Marie-Angélique Manceau and had 2 children, both of whom made it. Then we have Marie-Anne or Marie-Jeanne. I do not have any information on these 2. They possibly died in infancy, but we do not know. Now that is the clipping there is the clipping for 1681, the census. We have Jacques, Marie-Jeanne. We have the children, Marie, the firstborn, Jean, secondborn. We have Marguerite, third, and Pierre, who's still alive. Jacques would die in 1715 at the age of 69. He and Marie-Jeanne had been married 44 years. Marie-Jeanne would live out her life to the age of 80. She and Jacques would leave 42 descendants as of 1729, which isn't a lot, but obviously the line eventually grew stronger, leading to the viewer and my friends being here today. I researched it, and I do have a viewer who requested this profile. So finding the Pépins will be in volume 5 of our French Canadian ancestors. Here you'll find out all the Pépins and how important they are. It is a very common name in French Canada to this day. And have a look at that. I think it will really illuminate you as to the journey of all of your, if this is your ancestor, then all of the Pépins are your aunts and uncles and all that good stuff. As always in that book, they tell you the names that the Pépins would have morphed into, and there's quite a bit. We have Cardonnet, Châteauguay, de Lafont, Descordonnets, Dupin, Lachance, La Chaussée, Laforest, Laforge, Lechance, Papin, Papin, Patin, Pepin, Pepin, Pepite, Pine, and a Refort. I mean, can you imagine? So the reason why, if I can, I always like to feature this because you never know. You'll be like, what is that name? This will lead you into perhaps linking those names with the owner of the Pepin line. Here are some of my favorite resources that I like to use. One of the newest ones I've added is the Société d'Histoire des Filles du Roi. I added that, not only was it an amazing, society, but I have been using their books, and they're just phenomenal. Of course, they're in French, but as I read French, that isn't a problem for me. But it's just amazing, amazing works, and I'm so blessed to have those books. So I wanted to give a shout out to the Société d'Histoire des Filles du Roi. I think that what they are doing is amazing. And so we end our story of Marie-Jeanne and how she entered into one of the most prominent families in Quebec, the Pépins. It's always neat when these girls come from New France, and obviously, they don't know who they're going to select. They don't know their trajectory of their lives, but they ended up having a lovely life and being able to live out. They were married 44 years. They would have only 42 descendants, but still, they not only were early inhabitants of Nicolet, but then were also very, I'm sure, prominent citizens at Champlain. So I think that overall, it's always nice when the story is one of those founding families and how it grows, because obviously that's what Marie-Jeanne brought to that family, is that she was able to be one of the people, the founding mothers, who was able to help the Pépin line grow as it did. So we thank her for her contribution, for her bravery, for her courage. We know it couldn't have been easy. So thank you, Marie-Jeanne, for bringing us the gift that was you. And I also want to say thank you to my patrons and supporters. I cherish each and every one of you, and each and every subscriber. Love that, all the little notes and things that you send me and how you like this. And I also like when you say, hey, you got this wrong or you did that. And it's not always pleasant. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I messed up. But I appreciate when you tell me that I mess up. I'm here to learn. We're all in a learning curve. And so I really, really appreciate when you constructively, criticize or add to the research. And I want to say, these biographies are not meant to be inclusive and have every single detail. It's supposed to be honoring the Fille du Roi, and basically, we're saying her name, and that is the important thing. We're remembering her. And that was how this whole thing got started. So thank you to all of you. Thank you. Shout out to Shelby for the artwork. Love what you do. Thank you again. All right. Well, I'll see you on episode 228. Until then, au revoir.